Okay, let's start today with a little exercise in geometry. When you picture a standard, successful political career, what shape comes to mind?
Hmm. Usually, it's a
Mm,
straight line. Or maybe, a ladder.
A ladder,
You
yeah.
start at the PTA or the school board, you climb to city council, maybe grab a mayor's seat, and then you're aiming for the state house or Congress. It's linear, up and to the right.
Right. It's a very tidy, predictable escalation. You wait your turn, you check all the right boxes. But today, we are diving into a stack of notes on someone whose career map looks less like a ladder and more like, honestly, like a subway map.
Or a circuit board, maybe.
A circuit board, that's a great way to put it.
We are looking at the file on David Bowen. And if you're trying to understand modern power dynamics, not just who holds the gavel, but how change actually happens in a community, this is the case study you need.
Mm.
Because as of June 2025, Bowen has stepped into a major new role as the executive director of Wisconsin Voices.
Which is a massive shift. I mean, we're talking about moving from the very specific procedural world of the state legislature to the broad, messy, high-stakes world of nonprofit democracy protection.
And it really begs the question, is the inside game of politics, writing bills, sitting in committee meetings, voting on budgets, is that actually less effective than the outside game of building coalitions?
Right.
Because Bowen is unique in that he has done both at a very, very high level.
So the mission for this deep dive is to unpack that trajectory. We're going to look at how a kid from Milwaukee's Sherman Park neighborhood went from counter-protesting hate groups in the street to sitting in the legislature and now finally to this new role.
And we have a detailed profile here covering his background, his incredibly rapid rise, some genuinely gut-wrenching setbacks.
Seriously, there are parts of the story that just hurt to read.
They do. And his current reinvention. And I think the key insight for you listening is going to be redefining what public service actually looks like. We often get hung up on the title, but this story suggests the title is just a temporary vehicle for the work.
Let's get into the roots then, because you can't really understand the politician without understanding the neighborhood. David Bowen, born January 28, 1987, Milwaukee born and raised.
Specifically, Sherman Park. And we have to pause on the demographics and the vibe here. This is a classic working-class context. He's the son of Jamaican immigrants.
Which brings a very specific flavor to the American dream narrative, doesn't it?
It does. His mother was a nursing assistant. His father worked in a meatpacking plant. When you look at those jobs, you see the foundation of the labor movement. It's hard work, physical work, essential work.
It's not a background of dynastic wealth or, political connections.
Not at all. It's that dinner table education. You learn about the economy not from a textbook, but by hearing your parents talk about their shifts, their hours, the price of groceries.
Exactly. And that background seemed to catalyze a serious academic drive. He navigated the Milwaukee public school system, Lloyd Street Global Education Elementary, Morris Middle School, for the gifted and talented.
And that gifted and talented tag, that's an early indicator that he wasn't just coasting.
No.
He caps that off graduating with honors from Bradley Tech High School in 2005. But I want to fast forward just a bit to his time at UW-Milwaukee, because his choice of major is really the skeleton key for his whole career.
Oh, I noticed that in the notes. He didn't do the standard poli-sci or pre-law track that like 90% of politicians seem to do.
You earned a Bachelor of Science in Community Engagement and Educational Policy.
Let's break that down. What does that actually mean compared to, say, studying international relations?
Well, political science is often about the theory of government systems, history, international leverage. Community engagement is the mechanics of people. It's studying how you actually get a neighborhood to care about an issue, how you organize a block, how a bill translates into a classroom. It's a toolkit for the street level.
And he didn't wait for the diploma to start using that toolkit. This is the part of the profile that really stopped me. He gets involved with Urban Underground.
A critical institution in Milwaukee. It's a youth leadership organization.
He starts as a participant and eventually becomes program director. But there is one specific anecdote in the source material that feels cinematic. It's 2001. He's a teenager, and he is out there counter-protesting the Ku Klux Klan.
It's a jarring image, isn't it?
It's terrifying. I mean, I remember being a teenager. My biggest worry was a math test, standing opposite the Klan. That is a whole different universe of maturity.
It is a trial by fire. You have to imagine the physical and psychological pressure of that moment. A young black teenager standing up to a symbol of historic violence in his own city. That isn't volunteering. That is putting your body on the line.
It changes you, right? I mean, once you've done that, once you've stared down that kind of overt hate, sitting in a boring committee meeting probably doesn't feel quite so intimidating.
I think that's a fair assessment. It also grounded his work in reality. At Urban Underground, he wasn't just doing leadership exercises. He was working on violence prevention, homicide review initiatives.
He was seeing the consequences of policy failure up close.
Right. So he takes this street-level PhD he's earning in real time, and he decides to pivot. He decides to take that energy into the system. And this happens incredibly fast.
The velocity is unusual.
It really is. Usually people spend years paying their dues behind the scenes.
Not Bowen. So section 2 of our notes, the rapid rise. It's 2012. He runs for the Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors, District 10. He wins. And folks, he is 24 years old.
24. Context is so important here.
Yeah.
24 is young for any job, but in politics, it's practically infancy.
It is.
He became one of the youngest Black elected officials in the area's history.
So how does a 24-year-old even break through? I mean, Milwaukee politics isn't exactly a walk in the park. It's competitive.
It requires a level of energy that older candidates often can't match. It's the ground game, knocking on doors, showing up at every community meeting, bridging that gap between the youth vote and the older, consistent voters. And clearly, he was effective.
And once he got there, he wasn't just filling a seat. The notes highlight that he authored a living wage ordinance.
Which, again, tracks perfectly with his origin story. Son of a meat packer and a nursing assistant. Of course, the living wage is going to be his flagship issue. That is an abstract policy to him. That's his family's history.
He also pushed hard for youth employment and transit access.
And transit access is one of those things that sounds boring on paper, but is life or death for a working-class community.
Oh, absolutely. It's the difference between holding a job and losing it.
Exactly. If the bus doesn't run, you don't work.
Mm.
Bowen understood that civic engagement isn't just about voting. It's about the infrastructure that allows people to live.
So he's legislating his own lived experience. And the voters clearly responded because he doesn't stay on the county board for long. Just 2 years later, 2014, he levels up. He gets elected to the Wisconsin State Assembly.
District 10 again. And that this is a significant jump in altitude. The county board handles local services, parks, transit. The state assembly is where the big laws are made. Criminal code, state education funding, tax policy.
He spent 4 terms there, from 2015 to 2023. That's nearly a decade.
A decade in the trenches. And I use that word deliberately because the committees he served on are the hard ones. Education, children and families, corrections, community development.
Yeah, those aren't the glamour committees. You don't usually get famous working on corrections.
No, but you do get to touch the machinery of people's lives. Corrections policy determines who stays in prison. Education policy determines funding for the schools he grew up in. He focused on juvenile justice, food security. These are the plumbing of society.
Right. And if the plumbing breaks, the whole house is unlivable. I want to touch on his political alignment just to orient everyone. The notes mention something interesting about 2016. He was a superdelegate for Bernie Sanders.
Which is a very specific signal. In 2016, the Democratic Party had a clear divide between, the Clinton establishment wing and the Sanders progressive wing.
Sure.
For a sitting state legislator to back Sanders and to be a superdelegate, that shows he wasn't just following the party playbook. He was aligning himself with the structural change wing of the party.
It suggests he wasn't afraid of a little friction within his own team.
Exactly. He was willing to stake out a position.
So up to this point, if we were drawing that graph we talked about, it's a rocket ship. Teen activist, young supervisor, state representative before age 30, it looks unstoppable. But politics is rarely a fairy tale.
And this is where the story gets human. And honestly, this is where I think we learn the most about him.
Section 3, resilience through setbacks. Because the rocket ship hits some turbulence, he leaves the assembly due to term limits, but he's got momentum. He runs for chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin in 2019.
A role that is pure strategy and fundraising. And he doesn't win.
Okay, a stumble. Check in the loss column. But then comes 2022. He launches a campaign for lieutenant governor. This is a statewide ticket. This is the big leagues.
It is. He's positioned well, but then he withdraws.
And the reason isn't a scandal or a bad poll number. It's his mother.
She passed away from cancer. And I think we have to pause here. We talk about politicians like they're just avatars in a video game. But losing a parent, especially the mother, who was the core of that immigrant story, the nursing assistant who showed him the value of work, That is a devastating blow.
It stops the clock. It doesn't matter how ambitious you are. Grief doesn't care about the election cycle.
It forced withdrawal.
Yeah.
And that gap in his resume isn't a failure. It's a testament to his humanity. He stepped off the treadmill.
But the drive to serve didn't go away. So in 2023, he tries to get back into the game. He runs for the Milwaukee Common Council. Now, think about the optics here. You've been a state rep for 8 years, run for Elteen governor, and now you're running for the local council. Some might see that as a step down.
Or a return to the roots. He wanted to get back to the local level. But here's the kicker. He loses.
And not just a normal loss. I need you to visualize this number. He lost by 17 votes.
That is agonizing.
17 votes. That's what? 2 families? A large elevator ride?
It's a handful of conversations on a porch that didn't happen. It's a rainy hour where 3 people decided not to go to the polls. The margins are just razor thin.
Imagine the psychological toll of that sequence. You rise fast in your 20s, then you lose a party chair race, you lose your mother, you drop out of a statewide race, and then you lose a local election by the margin of a dinner party.
Most people would fold. I mean, honestly. The private sector pays better, the hours are better. The logical move would be to become a consultant, make some money, and go play golf.
I did my time. Good luck, everyone else.
Right, I tried. But Bowen didn't do that. And this brings us to the pivot, which I think is the most interesting part of this deep dive. This is where the story goes from biography to lesson.
Section 4, the new chapter. He doesn't disappear. He takes the role as State Advocacy Director for AARP.
Which is an interesting bridge role. AARP is massive, nonpartisan, focused on older adults. It kept him in the policy world, but took him out of the electoral grinder for a moment.
A palate cleanser, a way to stay in the fight without being on the ballot. But he didn't stay there long, because as of June 2025, he has taken on this leadership role we mentioned at the top, Executive Director of Wisconsin Voices.
And this feels like the synthesis of everything we've discussed.
For listeners who don't know the landscape, what exactly is Wisconsin Voices? Is it a think tank? A PAC?
It's a statewide nonprofit network. Their mission is what they call democracy protection. So they focus on voter engagement, civic participation, and building coalitions.
Coalitions. We hear that word a lot. It sounds like corporate speak sometimes. What does it actually mean in practice?
It means getting groups that don't usually talk to each other to work together. It means getting the environmental group, the labor union, the church group, and the student organization to align on a strategy to get people to vote. It's herding cats, but for democracy.
And why is this role a perfect fit for Bowen specifically? Why is he the guy for this job?
Think about the skill set required. You need the street cred of an activist to talk to the grassroots groups. He has that from Urban Underground. You need to understand how the laws are actually written. He has that from the Assembly. And you need to understand the pain of the voter.
He knows what it's like to win, and he definitely knows what it's like to lose by 17 votes.
Exactly. He understands that if you don't do the work, if you miss those 17 people, the outcome changes. He isn't viewing voter engagement as some abstract concept. He knows it's a game of inches.
It's almost like he's moved from being a player on the field to being the architect of the stadium.
That's a strong analogy. In the legislature, you are one of 99 votes in the Assembly. You can give a great speech, but if the other side has the majority, you lose. At Wisconsin Voices, he is building the infrastructure that determines who gets elected in the first place.
He's reinforcing the foundation.
In a swing state like Wisconsin, where elections are decided by tiny margins, the person running the voter engagement coalition might honestly have more influence on the future of the state than a backbench legislator.
That is a provocative thought. We always chase the shiny titles, senator, governor. But the power might actually be sitting in these nonprofit executive director chairs.
Especially in this era of polarization, democracy protection is the bedrock. If the system of voting isn't working or if people aren't engaged, the legislative debates don't even matter. Bowen has moved to where the structural stress is.
And it ties right back to that degree from UW-Milwaukee, community engagement.
Full circle. He is doing exactly what he studied to do and exactly what he started doing as a teenager, counter-protesting the Klan. He's just doing it with a bigger budget and a bigger map.
So when we step back and look at the David Bowen file, from the kid in Sherman Park to the rapid rise, the heartbreaking setbacks, and now this strategic role, what is the big takeaway?
For me, it's about the elasticity of public service. We tend to think that if you lose an election, your career is over. You're washed up. Bowen's story proves that the vehicle for change can be swapped out.
The vehicle changes, but the destination stays the same.
Correct. Sometimes the vehicle is a megaphone at a protest. Sometimes it's a legislative bill. Sometimes it's a strategy document for a nonprofit. If you are committed to the mission, in his case, empowering the community he came from, you just find the next vehicle.
It's a lesson in persistence, and frankly, a lesson in ego management. You have to be willing to do the work, even if the title isn't the honorable.
Resilience is the currency of this work. You spend it to keep going. And looking at Bowen, he seems to have plenty of it in the bank.
Well, this has been a fascinating look at the evolution of David Bowen. It challenges a lot of the assumptions we make about what a successful political career looks like. It's not always a straight lineup.
It certainly defies the linear geometry we started with. It's much more organic.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought to chew on. We live in a time where everyone is obsessed with the horse race, who is winning, who is losing. But looking at Bowen's shift, I want you to ask yourself, in the long run, where does real change come from? Is it from the person holding the office for 2 years? Or is it from the people building the coalitions that decide who gets into office in the first place? Maybe the title matters less than the network you build.
That is the question.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.
Stay curious.